welcome to Liverpool Community Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Johnson Lynch. And I would ask you, what do you do when, there's a stranger in your house or the competition? Well, what I would do is I'd welcome them wholeheartedly and say, have a cup of tea, because right now we're joined by the lovely Sophie Beatrice Cook, who is a content writer and podcast host with MLK Education. How you doing, Sophie?
I'm great. What an introduction. Am I the, am I the competition then?
No, but I just thought I'd say it. Only because you podcast.
I was just saying to you, wasn't I? It's weird being on the other side of the interview.
You was saying that.
I was.
You was saying that. And you know the thing about it is, Sophie, all I'm just trying to say is small town. And, it's like, why shouldn't people get to know one another?
I agree.
Even if they feel, hey, aren't you doing the same thing I'm doing? You know what I'm saying? But it's like, but you're doing it differently, though.
Yeah.
Because what you do at MLK, which I believe is Make Life Kind.
Yeah, so it's
Make Life Kind Trust, isn't it?
It's Milk Education, the company, but then we run the Make Life Kind podcast, which is part of our movement. So there's a lot of MLKs going on.
It's a trust.
It's a trust. It's in the
process.
process.
It's a wannabe charity.
It's in the process of becoming a charity. There's a lot going on at the moment.
That. You know what? Do you notice this already? We're talking at the same time. I am the host, No,
okay, you talk now.
No, tired me. No, exactly though. I mean, I think that's one of the good things about doing a podcast, where you're letting people know what you're all about, because, there might be that level of confusion. Have you ever faced that confusion of people wondering, just what is milk?
Yes, and the name milk confuses people a bit as well, because I have to explain it that it was started, it's a supply agency, the business. It was started to be a fresh approach to the education sector, hence the word milk, and it links to traditional values. And you used to have glass milk bottles in school, so it's meant to be nostalgic for teachers and things. But then we created the Make Life Kind movement, which is short MLK. Then we have another company, which is MLK Search, which recruit head teachers. So yes, there's a bit of confusion, but if I sit with you for about 5 hours, you'll understand.
Yeah. And we sat for about 3 of those hours earlier.
Yeah, I've been here all day.
Hey. Lovely having her here. But, also, too, is that sometimes you might run into the trouble of when you're dealing with acronyms, MLK. Like for me, when I hear MLK, I think of Martin Luther King.
Yes.
So do you work for Martin Luther King?
We don't, but it's slightly relevant as we are trying to drive diversity and inclusion into schools.
There we go.
There's a link.
There we go. So now let's actually talk about the school stuff, because, people keep hearing you mentioning schools and supply and everything. So, your main job is your company's main job is recruiting teachers of all kinds to go into, you recruiting teachers, but you're also recruiting speakers.
Yes.
So let's get that straight.
So, Milk Education, supply agency, we recruit teachers across the north into schools, into trusts, into youth groups. And then our speakers are that making a difference side of it. So we, as a marketing team, find school speakers or people that want to be school speakers. They have a story that wants to talk about these topics that matter. So we umbrella it under diversity, wellness, and safety awareness in schools and in the community, to be honest. If a group reached out and said they wanted to book a speaker, we wouldn't say no, because they're not a school, youth groups and community groups. But we recruit teachers, but we're also on the lookout for inspiring school speakers.
Now, what I liked is that you have it as topics.
Yes.
You call them crucial topics.
Stigma topics.
Ooh, stigma topics. Look, they got a flyer. And hey,
I brought coffee cups as well.
You know what? I don't have it in front of me, but they brought some really nice coffee cups. But these crucial topics are really interesting, because one of your main goals is these speakers have to not just like educate the young people, but like cover serious topics that even the teachers are afraid of.
Exactly.
So you're looking at like anti-bullying, you're looking at neurodiversity, anti-stigma. So even though you were talking about well-being and safety, university and stuff, these are like powerful topics because they cross the board around like knife crime and
Yeah.
and all that other kind of stuff. So how long you guys been doing this for?
It's been since COVID. So it was triggered by the mental health pandemic that went on during COVID. The teachers were struggling that we were working with on supply. My boss, Emma, shout out to Emma Walsh.
Shout out Emma.
Shout out
Walsh.
Emma. She was speaking to teachers on a daily basis. They were struggling with their mental health. She didn't know what to do, how to support them. So she partnered with our first speaker, which is Christine, who's a mental health and wellbeing speaker, and offered them free workshops, saw the benefit they had, and then they had the resources then to help the children. So that's what kind of triggered the movement. And it was also a reaction to the negative links to influencers online, like on Instagram and things, all these social media influencers that are influencing the wrong thing to young people, like the perfect body, perfect skin, you have to be XYZ, you have to make this much money, not giving them proper life skills and inspiration. So that's why the school speakers are called the milkfluencers. There's another confusing term for you. So
Wait. The milkfluencers.
The milkfluencers. So we've taken the negatives of influencer and we're putting a twist on it. So they're fighting stigmatized topics, driving positive influence to students. But it started with the mental health aspect. Then over time, we got more speakers on board. We thought, you know what? This is a massive thing. Schools aren't talking about it. You presume they are. They're not. Teachers need support with these topics. So we now have, I think, almost 25 speakers that cover, like we were saying, these crucial stigma topics, from racism all the way to LGBT to knife crime. So those topics that, and rightly so, if they don't know much about it, they've not experienced it, teachers are afraid to talk about. We're stepping in to still educate the kids because they need it, even if the teachers are afraid to talk about it.
I mean, like one such speaker you said you had was Fegan Murray. And now she was like one of the parents of one of the children in the Manchester Arena attack. But basically, she started Martin's Law. You said like about, it wasn't a year ago. It was like a year later after the event happened. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Of course, yeah. Fegan's one of our more recent milkfluencers that's joined the team. It's a massive one. We were speaking to schools a lot, and they were saying, we're noticing kids talking about these extremist views and radicalization. We want to educate on it. We know there's a lot in the media about these negative views. We want to kind of battle that. And I have a personal connection with Fegan, so we're working with her now. She lost her son, Martin Het, who was quite an iconic figure in the gay community in Manchester. So quite a lot of people know him. Obviously, a lot of people know what happened as well, that awful event. But we're working with her to drive awareness around it. But she, when Martin died, she didn't raise awareness. She didn't do anything like that for around a year. And then she decided, right, I need to do something about it. And she actually went to a concert herself, not long, around a year after he died, really plucked up the courage to go, went and realised there was no safety.
No handbag searches or anything.
She didn't get searched at all. And she was like, oh, you're choking me. Like, what? How has this happened? My son and 21 other people died the year before. So she started this Martin's Law, working with Parliament. And she now travels around the country raising awareness around it. But, that started a massive movement. Martin's death, because he had quite a big following as well on social media. The hashtag Be More Martin went round, and it's encouraging people to live their best lives and do the things you're scared of, because he was very like that. He was an icon. But we're so proud to be working with her, because it's something that shocked. It wasn't just Manchester, it was the nation, the world.
Yeah, of course.
It's a massive thing, and I feel like we're doing at least something to try and tackle it.
I mean, you also partnered with the Ava White Foundation.
That's very new as well. So
yeah, but I mean, that's an important one. Talk
of course,
a little bit about
and that again, something that rippled I mean, mainly in Liverpool, but across the UK again. We've only just partnered with them. They actually came to the office the other day and we met with them, and we're going to be working together to raise awareness around knife crime in schools and amongst young people. And again, giving kids positive influences, encouraging them to, you know, hang around with good people, get out of bad situations. Because a lot of the time, unfortunately, it's the people you're hanging around with. It might not be you. You get involved with stuff, you know, that's naturally how it happens. Or social media is a massive part of it. But yeah, that's another amazing partnership. And it's a very emotional one. I think it's a close to home one for a lot of people. But as we already talk about knife crime, it seemed like a perfect link.
Yeah. No, no, it definitely is. You know, I mean, these are definitely crucial topics and stuff like that. But, you know, because you're sending speakers into schools to talk to young people, you know, to talk to them about like serious subjects, you know, like one subject I was thinking about when we were having our conversation, near and dear to me, is like the subject of like Black history in schools. And I mean, and how, you know, let's not get it twisted. We're really just like not talking about something that is relegated to like 1 month out of the year, you know, or something that is like Black history, African history, or whatever. It's just, to me, it's about Black excellence, really, because I mean, how long, once we continue the story or the narrative of the degradation or the horrible tragedy that happened so many years ago, and why are we still not covering this as a topic in schools? And you were saying that you happen to actually have one of your speakers who does go in to do that, gentleman by the name of Loti. Can you tell us a little bit about
Loti,
it?
of course. Shout out to Loti. We're shouting out so many people today.
Well, you know what? That's what we do on this
Yeah.
show. Is we shout people out
I love
who
that.
don't get to shout.
Exactly. So, yes, and I completely agree with you. We were saying Black History Month, yes, great to raise awareness, but we should be talking about Black history and anti-racism
All the time.
365 days.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know, it's funny because we are raising awareness and we have Loti Bombay, amazing guy, but he's our diversity and inclusion ambassador. He's our anti-racism speaker. He's been with us from the start. He also talks about mental health. He has BPD and his struggles with that. But he is mostly booked out during Black History Month, which is great. And we're grateful schools are booking him. But again, we say, you know, come on, we need to talk about this all the time. And what happens then? The kids then forget for the rest of the year? I don't know. Like, what is the situation
Yeah.
there?
Now that the month is over, now we could go back to doing what we were doing.
Exactly. And again, we were saying, you know, it's important to talk about the difficulties through history and the traumatic events and struggles, but it's also shining a light on powerful Black people, you know.
Well, this is what I was saying to you before
Yeah.
about Black excellence. I mean, like the deal is, it's like I'm not trying to say let's you know, spend a month or more talking about slavery. I mean, you're talking about one major event that went over 4 centuries, by the way, not just like one. But in that aspect is that when we're looking at people, we actually have to look at our young and look at like what positivity do they have to hold on to, unless you are continuing to promote the excellence that are done by the people that came before them and who they can strive towards, who they can be hero worship besides sports, besides rap.
But also,
You know?
what is it teaching kids if all you're teaching them is about slavery of Black people?
Exactly.
What is it teaching them? It's causing divide already.
Exactly.
And it's, you know, I personally haven't gone through it. Maybe you'll be able to offer advice in that way. Being, you know, a child that's Black or, you know, from that background and sitting there and that's all people are learning about your history. What?
And then and the other kids in the class are looking at you like, man, poor you, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
It's already
man, I hate those people that did that stuff to your people, man.
It's writing their narrative for them, and I think instead of offering them great influences and saying, do you know what, let's do something positive today. Or I mean, in school, I think I only learned about, we referenced him before, Martin Luther King. Again, such an important thing to talk about. but not the only thing we should be talking about, and not 1 month a year.
No, exactly. And I don't want to like spend your podcast talking about this, but I just only wanted to be able to bring that up as a crucial topic, that is of concern, and it's good to know that at least your organization takes the note to look at education in this way. So, I mean, there are the anti-stigma, there are the anti-bullying, but then there's the neurodiversity, there's the inclusivity, there's the diversity, all of that kind of stuff. So that's the only reason why I brought that up. Now, I started this podcast by talking about the competition, about talking about you, right? You know what I mean? Isn't she lovely? But like in that aspect, let's go into your origin story.
Oh, getting
Right?
deep now.
Well, I'm not getting deep. I'm just trying to say you're from Maple. I mean,
Marple, just to clarify, Marple. Not where maple syrup's from.
that only goes to show you where the hell is that? But like,
You messed that put up completely. You started off saying she's sweet. Please, you nutcase.
oh, what are you trying to say? She's sweet and she's from Marple or
Yeah,
Maple?
not Maple.
Oh, that's why I said it.
I know.
Yo, you're ruining my podcast.
I'll take it, so don't forget.
Keep it in. This is the best bit of the podcast.
The best bit of the podcast is when we have these bloopers. All right, so your origin story.
Yes.
You're from Marple.
I am Marple. Probably
How'd you get
nobody's
into
heard of it.
podcasting? I know, but still.
Right?
Go ahead.
Marple, I say, I'm from Greater Manchester. And then someone goes, where? Stockport. Whereabouts? Marple. And they're like, oh, I don't know it. I'm like, that's why I did that from the beginning. Why
Yeah.
are you now
And that's why I said it was
questioning
Maple, because I did that on purpose. But anyway.
I mean, Maple would be a cooler name for it, to be fair. But it's a small town, quite countryside-y. It's a nice place. Not like the city, though. I like the city life. But I've worked for Milk Education for a year and about 8 months now. Came from a journalism background, did journalism at uni, was looking for writing jobs, came across this one. Long story short, because I could sit here for hours, moved to Liverpool. Once I worked here a few months, loved the job. And it wasn't until probably March-ish time, we even spoke about a podcast. So I didn't know podcasting would be part of my job. So I've been given, it was mentioned, and then because they knew I had a bit of experience in it, they were like, hey, would you want to host it? I was like, absolutely.
Right.
Like dream come true, like running a podcast, as well as, because
Exactly.
I'm a content writer, so I do all the content for our socials, blogs, mailers, but podcasting is quite a new thing for my role. And then we started it at end of May with our first episode, and now we're on season 2. So it's grown so
now, I
much.
call it seasons as well. And
I
people
like
say, why do you
that.
call it seasons? Well, because I grew up on television, bro.
Like seasons or series.
How many
one of
many
them.
episodes did you have before you went to season 2?
10.
Well, they're kind of short, you know what I mean? But that is the
know.
norm today.
I
mean,
would have carried on
because of the
season
stream-
1.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the streaming services, you could have had your break,
I know.
and then come back and still been in season 1 and
Exactly.
everything like that.
We had a break between like November, and then we recorded it a few
Christmas
weeks
break,
ago.
girl.
Yeah, so we had to have
And
a
you
bit of a
just
break.
come back, so you had your fall show, and
did.
you come back for your spring.
To be fair, I would have just carried on season 1. It would have been about 100 episodes.
Exactly. No, it wouldn't
we're
have
on
been, but
season
I'm
2
just
now.
I'm just letting you know.
And we
Right.
kicked it off with our neurodiversity speaker called Abs Abby. Shout out Abs, because he's amazing and he's smashing it doing bookings everywhere. But he's got ADHD, autism, bipolar. He also has tics, and he's just incredible. He's so inspiring, but was the most fun guest to have on.
Right.
Honestly, he was amazing. But that will be out possibly next week, maybe the week after. So shout out to myself. Follow Make Life Kind podcast, Spotify, and YouTube.
Now, this Make Life Kind podcast is also taking place at the new Pod Cafe here
is.
in Liverpool.
It is.
Down at the Baltic, that she doesn't know where it is.
I don't know.
She just don't want people to come find her. That's what
Do
she
you know
just
what?
don't want.
No, I love it too much. No one else can come. I'm joking. It's right near the Baltic Creative Digital House.
Don't know what that is, but it's
So
probably
if you
right.
Google map that-
it probably used to be. It probably is in that building where the melodic distraction used to be, and stuff like that.
It's in the same building as Liverpool Live Radio. If people know where that is.
Oh, okay, that's a trailer.
It's like behind there.
Yeah, I know it now.
Yeah.
And everything like that. Yeah, okay, yeah, I know
So
that.
you know
area.
now.
Yeah, I know
Well-
now where you are.
It's
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Go on their socials. You'll find the location.
Well,
There we go.
I guess the reason why it's in that area is because it was set up by, you said, Roy Basnett.
Yes,
Claire.
Roy, Claire. Oh,
Is it Claire Simmel? Or?
Claire Alexandra? See, I'm gonna have to find a name now. I don't know.
Oh,
off the top
look
of
at
my
that.
head.
See, now you know. We didn't cover that in
Honestly,
the pre-notes.
we've not discussed this. I can't believe you're going off script.
I am a little bit, unfortunately. Only because I wanted to mention Roy Basnett's name and letting Roy know, Roy, we've met before. Anyway, but yeah, so the Pie Cafe, it's a new thing that is out and everything, and so your show is done in there.
Yes, we recorded season 1 there in their old location, and then we've just started season 2 there. So they produce it all for us, which is amazing because we don't have to worry.
Yeah.
I just turn up and interview people.
Yeah. Well, it's also pretty good to be able to give speakers like who generally guest speakers a chance to share a little bit more about themselves.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And more about their ethos and what they're generally going to talk about, especially since they're covering such serious topics.
Exactly.
Is that what you find?
Yeah, so that's why the podcast started, because we'd already started the movement, and then we wanted to kind of raise more awareness and have examples of their stories and what they've been through and what they can offer schools for our recruiters to use and for us to send out to people to post on social. So my goal is to obviously get the best out of them in the interview, but interview them about their story, everything they've been through, you know, the key things they cover, their sessions, and why they wanted to work with us. That's like our kind of summary. But it's great because you get, I mean, we do about half an hour with them, but we summarize their whole story for people to then listen and be like, wow, they've gone through all that. And then they can book them for their school. So it's a good resource. And it's a free, I mean, YouTube's free. It's a free resource for teachers to use in class as well as a lesson. They could play Loti's Anti-Racism podcast, and then they've learned a bit more about Black history that isn't just Black History Month or slavery. Yeah. So there we go.
No, exactly. So any interesting guests coming up? I mean, you mentioned abs and stuff like that, but who else you got coming up now?
So we've got...
season 2.
In season 2. We've got Marcel Edwards coming up, who is the Diversity and Inclusion Ambassador for Adidas. Mm-hmm. I've said it right. Have I said it right?
Adidas is
Adidas.
Right.
I always say it
Adidas
wrong.
People.
I used to say Adidas. Yeah. I'm never going to tell him that.
Exactly.
Don't tell him. I hope he's not listening or watching. So he's coming up. So he does a lot of diversity and inclusion strategy work with schools, with teachers, and with, you know, companies as well. So that'll be an exciting one. And
I think that's kind of interesting though, because I mean, working for a sneaker company, and then, you know, doing this kind of work. I mean, why do you think that is?
I think from what he said, he wants to get more involved in, you know, inspiring young people and going into schools and having that connection and doing a bit for the community, you know, making a real difference. That's a lot of what our speakers do. A lot of them have full-time jobs or at least some kind of work, which might be relevant, which might not be. And then this is their make a difference project, and they just want to work with us to kind of drive the kindness message. That's what it's all about. You know, being kind, the importance of being kind, and it links to all our topics we talk about. But he's a really exciting one, and that'll be great. And he comes from, he wanted to be a footballer and things, so he comes from that sport background, a lot of racism as a child, quite a bit of family trauma. So he's been through a lot of adversity, and obviously has done so much with his life, and it's inspiring for kids, but also he's such a humble person and dead relatable for kids anyway. So that's an exciting one. Then we've got another exciting one, Evie. I'm going to really butcher this name. Wunderweber. German, so it would probably be more Wunder. I'm not going to say it.
Wunderweber.
There we go. She was on Gogglebox.
Was she?
Yes. So I don't know whether you remember if you watch Gogglebox.
I do, unfortunately.
I
Thanks
love
for showing
Gogglebox.
me how lonely I am.
I also watch it, so maybe I'm lonely too. But her dad's German. It's the family. They have quite a big dog. There's a mum, dad, and normally her on it. I'm really, but she had like bleach blonde hair, sometimes pink. Anyway,
Okay.
she is going to be our kind of online bullying, social media bullying advocate, because that's a new thing we want to be talking about more. She was actually bullied from a young age. She used to get death threats. People used to call her house phone for no apparent reason, just horrible kids in schools. But we want to fight the bullying, like I've spoken about.
Was it after Gogglebox or before?
No, this was when she was like 6. People used to ring her phone. But then
get out.
later on in life, she went on Gogglebox with her family and she received so much hate online. People took a real disliking to her. And if you met her, she's the loveliest person. But the way they portrayed her on Gogglebox is nothing like she was. Obviously, the producers are trying to get the best bits, aren't they, out of the show? Because you only see them for a second.
Yeah.
But she talks about kind of the reality of being on a show like that and fighting those stigmas around how you're represented and the bullying that came from that online bullying, social media. People are I know people are horrible.
I mean, yeah.
But some of the things she told me, but she has really struggled with her mental health. She's been suicidal a lot of times in her life from a young age. She talks all about that, but also how she's like fighting that and how she's got a recent diagnosis of BPD, which links a lot to how she was struggling with her mental health. She didn't know what it was. So she could talk about loads of topics, but the bullying angle is a big one.
That's amazing.
So yeah, we've got a lot of people, but they're two that I'm excited about at the moment.
No, exactly. Obviously with an organization like Milk, you say it's a commercial company. You're applying, they are applying for charity status, and everything else like that. But you have several partners, which you've already mentioned. But then there's some other partners like JJ Effect and the Salon Project and stuff. But what I thought was interesting is like when you were telling me that you did some partnership with Burnley in the community.
Yeah.
That you actually went outreached in the community with certain events like a football tournament.
Yeah, so the other day, it was a week ago, there was an event we did at Burnley Football Club in the community. So it's like a Premier League Kicks, I think it's called, with the young people. Mm-hmm. So they hosted the event at the indoor football pitches and they ran a tournament in partnership with us. So we're working with them. And some of our speakers went. So Loti went. We have Jordan, who's a world karate champion, who talks about anti-racism as well. And Abs went on neurodiversity speaker. So they all did talks on the pitches as well. And then we had the tournaments between the teams and we spoke a bit about our movement. But that's a recent partnership. We've also partnered recently with Manchester United Foundation and Liverpool FC in the community. So the football club thing is rolling out. That's why it's not limited to schools and trusts. We just want to work with as many, relevant organisations in the community that can spread the message, but also they've got those young people, the football clubs have got the young people we want to help and we want to inspire and give them those speakers, like Jordan going in and Loti going in. It's people they can look up to, but also, show them they've been through their struggles and they've kind of come out the other side. But yeah, football partnerships, mad.
Well, football partnerships.
Casual.
Digital partnerships, podcast partnerships, hey, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But, this has all been fascinating there, Sophie. Now, I should say, how can people find you? Because I see you all the time on LinkedIn, so they can find you pretty fast. But how can people find you or find Milk Education?
Yeah, so, me personally, Sophie Beatrice Cook, as you said at the start, on LinkedIn, Milk Education on LinkedIn, Same, milk_education on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We've got a TikTok now, so down with the kids.
Are you down with the Insta Reels?
Yes, we are with the reels. We're good. I don't do a lot of it. I do a lot of just the content. We have Aaron on my team that does a lot of the video stuff. I just post them. But
So
I'm involved.
you tell Aaron, like that little funny blooper that we had on here.
That would be perfect.
Download
TikTok.
that as
The TikTok is Milk Education UK, one word. Yeah. And then we've got obviously the podcast, which I've already said, Make Life Kind podcast, YouTube, Spotify. If you want to follow me on Instagram, SophBC_.
Sophie BC.
Sophie
See,
Beatrice
first she
Cook.
was like, you can call me Sophie B, and then I was like, yeah, that sounds like a rapper. But then now you're like Sophie BC.
SophBC_. People are always like, what? I'm like,
Yeah, I'm Sophie. I'm Sophie before.
Sophie
before
B
the big
sounds
C.
nice, but it does
I
sound
don't
like I'm
know.
a rapper, and
Sounds
I can't
like,
rap.
Sounds like before Christ. But like,
And then it'll be AD. Sophie AD.
Yeah. Okay. So
Moving on.
now moving on swiftly. No, I think it's been fascinating. I'm hoping that you felt like you got the word out about milk and everything. You cleared up the misconception around Make Life Kind. And
People are
milk
still
and
going to be
what it
confused.
is. Yeah, I think so. Just to be
Hey,
fair.
listen to my podcast and maybe you won't be confused. There we go.
No. Listen
Once
to
you've
this
listened to this.
podcast and everything like that, and
Oh, can I just say as well,
what?
follow the movement.
Follow the movement.
Yes, it's the website milk-education.co.uk/milkfluencers. MILK and then fluencers, like influencers. And join the movement.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Thanks, Phil. All right, so I'm Chief Johnson Lynch and everything. You've been watching the Liverpool Community Podcast. This has been a lovely Sophie Beatrice Cook and everything. And you can follow her on Make Life Kind Podcast and everything. As you see, it's everywhere. How come we're not everywhere? Who knows? But it's all good. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I've loved being here.
Oh, thank you. All right, peace out.